Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty RoundTable Radio Talk Show.
All things must come to an end. How about some pasta sauce for, a different kind of high-tech secret sauce. First, they warn of warming. Now it's cooling. Redistricting efforts commit vote fraud. Trump tightens grip on the GOP. Numerous prestigious law schools breaking the law. Just my opinion, to which I'm entitled. China playing both sides in the war. They win no matter what. Dollar General opening all kinds of stores as the economy, hits strong headwinds. Amazon declares war on everybody. Well, kind of. Not you if you go ahead and use Amazon for everything. President Trump says we're going to end income tax. He's been saying that forever, but I ain't seen no pay dirt that it's real. Welcome to the broadcast. Hope you're all doing fantastic. I'm Sam Bushman. Nobody with me today, ladies and gentlemen. James Edwards said, hey, man, I'm taking off because it's my wife and I's anniversary, and so we're going to go ahead and go on vacation. So James is gone, but it's my anniversary, too. I'm going to be married 34 years coming up this Friday. So it's kind of interesting. He takes off and has a big old vacation for his. I go to work, baby. What do you think of that? Just saying. Happy to have you along, my fellow Americans. I'm Sam Bushman. It is hard-hitting news the networks refuse to use, and it does indeed start now. Oh, boy. You ever heard of Ask Jeeves? Let me just ask my producers that. Have you ever heard of Ask Jeeves? Zach, Michael, Jeremiah? No? All right, you guys are all too young. There's an old system called Ask Jeeves. It turned into Ask.com. After nearly 30 years, ladies and gentlemen, the once popular search engine Ask.com, also, it was in 1997, it was launched as Ask Jeeves. That's anyway, you got to go study that so you can kind of get caught up on it. Anyway, they've decided to finally shut down, folks. The decision was made by its parent company. What do they call this thing? IAC? IAC, IAC, signaling the close on their now static homepage with a note to its users. The site has been known for answering queries in a unique question-answer format. But, the fact is that, with AI and Google and all these other modern tools, they just kind of fell behind on the technology. The shutdown, by the way, represents a significant moment in internet history, folks, underscoring the transition from super early search engines to more complicated AI. Anyway, I thought it was interesting. Closure of Ask Jeeves. Whoa. Wow. Gone. That's kind of scary. Not that I really think Ask Jeeves is that important in the modern day, so that's not scary. But what's scary is all things must come to an end, right? Of course, not God's law and not God and not your eternal progression. Those things are eternal and last forever. But I'm saying all things earthly wise come to an end, right? I mean, it's the country song joke is, you never see a hearse pulling a trailer. Because, what do you got? You can't take anything with you is the joke, right? And so it's kind of like that. Everything has an end on Earth. And so even after 30 years, this popular engine, in its time, it was like, wow, it was cool, innovative, unique tech, and pretty awesome. All right, it's getting worse because we jettison Ask Jeeves, but we embrace, what do they call this thing? Pasta sauce? All right, first Alexa, now pasta sauce. Yeah, the company's called Prego, right? You ever heard of Prego? You guys have heard of Prego, haven't you? All right. Put that on your spaghetti noodles when mom's gone because it's easy to make? Okay. Anyway, it looks like Prego is teaming up with a company. They unveil a device designed to record your family dinner conversations. Yeah. Prego teamed up with a group called StoryCores, and they're launching what they call a limited edition device. It's called the Connection Keeper. And the Connection Keeper is this cool device that's like a little puck-sized recorder, is designed to sit on your dinner table and capture family conversations. Now, the company says the goal is to encourage families to have conversation and to keep that conversation for all time. It's not meant to be a surveillance device. They claim the device has no AI, no cloud connection, no Wi-Fi, none of that. So it's not designed to spy on anybody. It's just designed to allow you to, preserve those conversations. Still, critics say, the idea reflects a growing culture of normalizing in-home recording technology, right? Even during private family meals. So the question becomes kind of, what do we think of all this thing, right? Is this good? Is this bad? Is this right? Is this wrong? And I want to just highlight that, technology is neither good nor bad, okay? Technology just exists. It depends on who's using it and what their agenda is on if it's good or bad, right? And I bring this up just because it's interesting. I don't really have a problem with this. You say, Sam, what about privacy? I understand, but you can literally have it by default off. And you can turn it on by choice. And you can do that with anything, right? This just supposedly makes it easier to do. And so I would propose that you get one of these. I wouldn't even mind if it's connected to AI and or the internet, Wi-Fi. Because if you start recording a lot of audio or a lot of video, if you did video, this doesn't do video, by the way. But if eventually if we get there, I don't even have a problem with recording the conversation, doing it on audio, doing it on video, putting it in the cloud for archival or whatever. Most people don't have big enough hard drives to store all that kind of stuff. And if you do it right, you could basically either one, keep the audio, or two, get a transcript or a summary. So I just created an app that I wrote with Claude called My Notes. And My Notes lets you basically just talk into your microphone on a computer or whatever. You just press record, then you start talking, and you talk and talk and talk. And when you're done, you hit save or, end recording. And it will basically go out to the internet. It'll convert that audio back to text. So now you have a transcript of the audio. And then it'll take that text transcript and it'll summarize it based on summarizing technology using AI. Why do I use that? Because then you get these prompts. So after you save the recording, then it gives you a list of prompts and it says, what do you want to do with this transcript now? Do you want to turn it into meeting notes? Do you want to turn it into a to-do list? Is this a shopping list? Is this, what do you want it to be? And then you choose the prompt and then it will convert it to whatever you want it to be. So if it's a shopping list and you're kind of like, shoot, what did my wife say she needed? And you say all kinds of things don't really relate, but yet you're just kind of rambling. Then it can go ahead and do the summary. And so it'll strip out all the rambling, all the 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 whatever. And at the end of the day, I just get this bullet pointed shopping list or a bullet pointed to-do list or a meeting summary notes or possibly a journal entry. And what is the relationship? It depends on how it formats it, right? Well, what if you do things with your dinner conversations? What if you have this little device and you, the connection keeper is what it's called. And what if you go ahead and have that default, it's off, so it doesn't record your conversations every day. But yet you say, you know what? We have a great dinner tonight. In fact, it's a Valentine's special dinner. And we're going to talk about how grateful we are for each other and service and what's happening. We've got some extended family or some grown children with us around the table tonight. And, we're going to get caught up on what's happening with each family. And, Johnny has done something really cool. He won this award or he did this or that, or, Mary is this and that. And you want to document all that kind of stuff. You could literally press the button on this thing, turn it on, have it record the family conversation. Now, this one doesn't do this yet because they're paranoid about how society is going to respond to it. But imagine if you just said, we're going to do this. I want to use AI and I want to use my Sam Bushman's My Notes philosophy. And I want this recorder to record everything. Then I want it to summarize it. So all the all the, stuff like that. And then you get this summary and then you could take out anything that maybe wasn't perfectly appropriate. someone teasing their little brother. Later, you don't really want that in the archives of recording that they tease their little brother. So cut that out or whatever. I'm not saying anything really sinister or bad, just maybe banter or things that, someone makes a joke and it maybe just doesn't apply as much as it should or whatever. Anyway, the point is you could take that transcript, turn it into a summary, edit that summary, and add that to a journal or a family album or instead of my notes, family notes, and you could preserve dates and places and celebratory moments. And it could be really, really, really cool, right? Prego, baby. Ask Jeeves is dead, but now pasta sauce. Yeah. Prego teaming up. StoryCorps. The Connection Keeper. Yay or nay? Just wondering. I'm Sam Bushman.
Now, Mr. and Mrs. Sir Galahad, what seems to be the problem?
Well, it's just not working.
She's been very unrealistic.
Really?
Ever since he rescued me from the dragon, we've been drifting apart.
That's not true.
We were supposed to live happily ever after.
Now, this isn't a fairy tale.
At first he was gallant and chivalrous, opening doors for me, holding my chair, taking my arm.
All right, I'm not as young as I used to be.
He simply isn't the man who swept me off my feet.
Well, you're not as young as you used to be.
Mr. Sir Galahad, maybe if you started by just holding Mrs. Sir Galahad's hand when you're together.
Really?
Yes, try it.
Okay.
All right.
Go on, take her hand. Careful, little oil.
Marriage. You're never too far apart when you're still holding hands. From your neighbors, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Now, look into each other's eyes. That's right. Raise your visor.
Oh, they're blue, dear.
For more tips on strengthening your marriage, visit family.mormon.org.
Are you watching what's happening in our country and asking, what can I do? Join the John Birch Society in Salt Lake City, June 6th, for a powerful one-day conference. The day includes a host of respected speakers, 2 meals, and meaningful connections. You'll gain clarity on the issues and walk away with practical steps you can take to your community. Reserve your seat today at jbs.org/SLC26. That's jbs.org/SLC26.
All right, back with you live, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Sam Bushman. Hope you're all doing absolutely fantastic. Anyway, kind of fun tech news at the start of the show. StoryCorps teaming up with Prego, launching the Connection Keeper. They say it's not about spying, but critics say, oh, yeah, you think so, huh? I know this. It will be used for spying. That's for sure. All right, Al Gore and company's in the news. They had a big old conversation and everything else. And, well, here's what happened. First, they warned of warming, right? Now the fear turns to a campaign, an ice threat. Now, here's what's interesting. I don't know if you guys have the long history memory of this, but I've been in radio for more than 30 years now. And I'm telling you right now, when I started out, they weren't talking about global warming. They were talking about climate change. And there was a guy who wrote a book, not by fire, but by ice. And he talked about a global cooling. And so in the 70s, they talked about cooling. Then it came to the, whatever. And they talked about warming. And then they knew neither really made sense. So they talked about climate change. And anyway, there you have it. But now they're warming. Now the fear campaign turns to ice, they say. A fresh climate controversy erupted after Big Al Gore warned that, quote, changing ocean currents could bring catastrophic consequences within decades, while critics say, hey, you guys just keep changing the game to keep the fear alive. That's all that's going on for you people. And so what do you think? Is it about just keeping the fear alive? Is global warming or global cooling or climate change, as Al Gore says, real? Is it going to ruin the planet? Al Gore says changing ocean currents could bring catastrophic consequences within decades. Now, again, you had others saying, oh, by 2012, we're all going to be melting down. I mean, they have given you these sky is falling chicken little catastrophic ideas for a long time now. I've been in radio for 30 plus years, and the whole time I've been in radio, they've been babbling about this garbage. Let me just tell you how I feel on this topic very, very clearly. I think there is climate change. I think God is the ultimate weatherman. Kurt Crosby used to highlight this, and I commend him for it because he's spot on. God is in charge of the weather. Does man try to play God and manipulate the weather? Absolutely, and it's disaster whenever we do that. Utah, Wyoming, or Montana, Idaho, some of these states, Nevada, are looking into using, cloud seeding technology to try to bring more water to the region and all this kind of stuff. I believe when man manipulates the weather like that, it will be disastrous. It will be with disastrous consequences, my friends. Know that, okay? Because you cannot rob Peter to pay Paul. When you do something, there's going to be a reaction and an opposite or contrary or whatever reaction, okay? And so when we do this, it's just not good. So I would I would recommend they don't. Do not mess with the weather, people, because you'll regret it. You'll think you're doing good, and at first it'll seem like that, and then eventually it'll be great harm, either with weather warfare and or just weather lack of knowledge or lack of understanding what you're tampering with. It'll create a problem. Anyway, I digress, except for I think they should not do it. And when they say there is global warming and global cooling, I think there's some truth to it. Now, here's the disconnect. I think there's truth that the planet warms and the planet cools. There's cycles. It's all cyclical. And daily it gets hotter, and in the night it gets cooler, and monthly it does the same, or annually it does the same, winter, spring, summer, or fall. Just ask James Taylor if you don't believe me, right? Anyway, and so this cycle reality is part of God's, planetary reality. And so there's also larger cycles, thousands of years cycles. And so I think the earth has changed a lot. But I think it's part of God's plan that it changes, and I think it's okay that it changes. And I think sometimes big catastrophic events happen because of the wickedness of God's children. Go read your Bible if you don't believe me. God created this massive flood, and everybody died except for Noah and company, right? And the whole earth was flooded with water. And so no doubt the earth changes with God's being the ultimate weatherman in charge deal. So we got to realize that. And we got to realize that when the people sin, when the people violate the commandments of Almighty God, then he uses weather not to kill us and be evil or horrible to us, although that sometimes is a reality, the consequences of our actions, if you will. But he does it for our sakes. He does it because he loves us, and he does it because he wants to stir us up in remembrance of him. And if we turn to him, if we repent and change and keep the commandments, he promises us in the Bible, that he will heal our land and protect us, right? So we've got a grand covenant promise with God if we do our part. Well, right now we talk about climate change and global warming and cooling and everything else. And instead of turning to God like we should and realizing he's the ultimate weatherman, instead of realizing that there are cycles and yes, these things do happen, instead of realizing that, the weather's pretty good and, there's storms and different things for our earth life's experience and all that, but really the weather's used against us when we're wicked to turn us to God and help us remember God. So all these things are true. Let me tell you what's not true, or what I believe is bogus. Man inserts themselves, pretending they are God, on one hand, trying to manipulate the weather, sometimes for good, like, hey, we want more water in the Rocky Mountains, we need water. That's a good intention. It'll probably backfire, but it's a good intention. To horrible weather war type intentions, weather warfare, using the weather as a tool of destruction and war. That's evil, and it needs to stop. But man does that. Man also inserts themselves into the weather discussions and the global warming and cooling and climate change and everything else for government control purposes, another evil agenda backed by tyrannical folks who want to steal your liberty. And they want to basically do so by telling you, hey, we can have security if we do this, this, that. So on this altar of security or stability or safety or whatever, then you trade your liberty and end up with neither. Is what really happens. And so this idea that because you live on the planet and you happen to fart, or whatever the case may be, then you're responsible for all the global warming and it's horrible. That's a lie. It's not true. God put us on the earth. He put us here to be happy. It's his earth. We're his children. All of us and the earth are his creations. And he didn't put us here to run around and panic and fear and fail and melt down. He put us here to be happy, to love one another, to learn to serve, to get physical bodies, to make choices, learn to make wise choices. The more choices we make like God and the closer we become to being like our Father in heaven, the better. That's God's plan. It isn't a plan of fear and tyranny. And so this idea that the planet is changing climate-wise, absolutely true. Is it true that because you drive a car that you've ruined the planet and it's the end of the world and the sky is falling and by golly, government must do something? Absolute false lie. Is it true that CO2 is the enemy of the world? No, it's not, folks. I don't know if you know this, but I think that the plants and trees breathe CO2, right? And we breathe oxygen. Doesn't it kind of go back and forth? Tell me how that works, Jeremiah. You're like a scientist kind of guy, right? Jeremiah is one of our producers. Look, don't we and the plants breathe opposite stuff? And what we breathe out, they breathe in. And what they breathe out, we breathe in. I'm pretty sure that's how it works. Is that how it works, Zach? If that's how it works, then it seems to me that if we have an imbalance, what the best thing to do might be to plant trees. Plant a big old bunch of them sequoia and then big old redwood trees and just plant trees. Think how many plant trees were on the planet before we started just deforesting and, creating houses and, open spaces. And, there was a lot of trees on the planet. And there was a lot of oxygen and CO2 and all that kind of stuff, right? So the answer is not to panic and think the enemy is we the people. The enemy is your cow that, sits in the field and whatever. Okay? We don't need to think about it as a hostile conflict. What we need to do is think about it like, hey, God's in charge. He loves us. We're his children. And how can we best serve God? Listen to me carefully. How do we best serve God? Realize that our living on the planet can create some catastrophic realities if we don't take care of ourselves. Meaning God gave us the earth and we're supposed to tend it and take care of it. That doesn't mean just leave trash everywhere. A simple example is we need to learn to try to live in green ways. I support the general idea to take care of the environment, to make sure that we're not doing damage to the environment. I support that general agenda. But the second you take it political and make it a liberal talking point and act like I'm the enemy of the earth, and the only way I can possibly take care of the earth is if I spiral down and don't have anything or do anything or be anything, that's when I start to have a problem with these climate change people. Because it's not about whether the climate is changing. It is about whether you're going to acknowledge God in this process or not, and in who's going to decide what needs to be done about it and how we go about it. Right? If I say climate change isn't real, well, then they want to throw me in jail for that. The reason I say climate change isn't real is because, again, this whole climate change ideology by liberals or by, enemies of liberty, in my opinion, they're not talking about, hey, there's changes in the environment and God's in charge and he's got this. The solutions are to keep his commandments and learn how to live in the friendly environment together, but not penalize one another, not create boogeymen, not create divisions and hate, not position government to take advantage of all of it and create increased government power, not finance out of existence. So if I were to, for example, do something, they say that's a climate change negative, Sam. You got a massive footprint. You got 8 children. You're horrible. You're draining on the... But if I had the money of Elon Musk and I went ahead and paid for my sins, if you will, then they could say that I'm super green, buddy. I'm climate zero. I'm a good guy. I'm helping out the planet. See, that's where the lies come in, folks. You cannot pay your way into green. When you look at God, even the widow's mite can take care of the environment, if you know what I'm saying. So anyway, I thought I'd go off on that because it's a big old to-do and Al Gore's in the news and everybody's criticizing him for flip-flopping around. And the reality is no one's talking, in my opinion, about the real topics. Let's turn to God Almighty. Let's get his guidance. If we pray to him for guidance and direction, he can spark our minds and hearts to come up with solutions to the problems we face. Do you believe that? I certainly do. And I'm Sam Bushman. If you got a CO2 problem, the answer is to plant tons of trees. God save our republic.